Hello and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the Algebra 1 concept of laws of exponents. This is standard A.11B in the great state of Texas, and we are using item number 49 of the 2018 released STAAR test. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and take a moment to pause the video, work this problem out on your own, unpause it, and we will look at our answers together. So we need to find an equivalent expression. Q and W are defined. That means they just can't be 0, because if you ended up with a 0 in your denominator, obviously things would be undefined. So we need to simplify this, and you see that we've got two fractions that are going to be multiplied together, which means that we can use the distributive property for the whole thing. So this is what I want to do. I want to pull out each term separately. So this is what I'm saying. Let's just look at our coefficients, okay? So I'm seeing a 10 over 2 times 4, and we'll just call it over 1. There's no number down below, okay? So that's going to end up being 5 times 4. So for our coefficient, that's going to equal 20. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of write that right up there. So automatically, I'm looking at B or D. Okay, let's do the same thing for my Q's. Okay, so my Q is going to do this. I've got a Q to the 5th over, and I don't have any Q's down below, so I'm just going to keep it in the fractional form. I'm going to put it over 1 times, I've got this Q to the 6th, squared that over 1. Okay, so I don't really need the fractional bottom. So what do I do with the Q to the 6th and then have that squared? Okay, so that's going to be on our mathematics material, on our reference materials mathematics chart, power of a power. So that says if you have a to the m power, and then you end up taking that whole expression to the n power. When you take the power of a power, it's the same as keeping that base, that's that big number, and simply multiplying the two powers, a to the m times n. Okay? So this is going to be q to the 5th times q to the 6 times 2, or q to the 12th. Now, what happens when you're multiplying these two things with the same bases? Okay, so this is product of powers. We need to keep this in mind as well. When you have, let's see, a to the m times a to the n, in this case, they're not being taken as an exponent of each other. They're just being multiplied. The two bases are. You end up adding the two, so we have to keep that in mind. So that's going to be q time, and then 5 plus, and we said that was going to be 6 times 2, 12. So that's q to the 17. All right, so we can just put that right there. Q to the 17. Now let's take our w's. Okay, so we've got w over 7, w third, nothing over on the numerator. On the second one, I've got a w to the negative 5th, okay? So we've got two things going on here. We need the quotients of powers. This is also in our mathematics chart, reference materials. The product of powers has you add the two exponents if you have the same base. So the quotient of powers is going to have you subtract the two exponents if you have the same base, okay? So that's going to be w and then 7 minus 3. All right, this last one is going to be negative exponent, because we've got that negative down there. So if it's a to the negative n, it's the same as 1 over. You just take the reciprocal, okay? So this is going to be the reciprocal, which means we end up flipping it up on top. So that's going to end up being w to the 5, because that negative 5th, it's in the denominator, moves it up. So that's going to equal being w to the 4 times 5, and then we're going to end up making that to the 9 because we add them. So our answer here is B.